a cheer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, the organization, for inviting us to explain what we've been doing for 3 years now. It's a project that from our non-profit foundation, which is something I want to also explain a little bit more afterwards, we have been developing and applying in the context of what some people are starting to consider a field in crowdfunding, which is civic crowdfunding. It's not 100% of what we do with crowdfunding. We're also very interested in digital culture, in educational projects, but it's with some things that I want to share with you today, something that connects to a transversal importance of openness and some of the things that have been mentioned here today. We are also glad to be recognized as an NGO or as a digital innovation initiative from many institutions that are showing that this model is possible, and that's something that I would like to know your opinion afterwards, if possible. So basically, if I know how this works, pressing the green one, probably? Yes, here it is. A little bit explanation of where do we come from. We started as a group of people, of activists working in the field of digital culture, working quite a lot also with open source communities, and we were always finding the same situation. What's the minimum of money I can get in order to do this experiment or to create a platform that, if it's just something that some other people find useful can grow, but I need a minimum of resources, no? And finding, closed doors everywhere in the usual, kind of formats where you can find money sometimes for developing technology or even for social initiatives. So there was a great lack, there's still a great lack of public or even private money for certain projects like the ones we're working with. So that was the initial need, and crowdfunding, when I'm talking about 2009, 2010, was already happening in other countries, and we could observe some things and do some kind of informal research. What we also did, and it's something that connects to what we did yesterday here, which was another great opportunity for us, was to work with people with direct questions, trying to validate what's important for a person that feels part of a community in order to give support to projects they like. And being very, very open-minded in terms of not only talking about money, but talking about other things which are important, like attachment, non-monetary resources, visibility, etc. So we take co-design, or we took co-design very, very seriously, and we still do it, in order to try to do something that has many things in common with crowdfunding platforms and the standard that you're probably very aware of, how you have a goal, you have a certain amount of time in order to get that amount of money, and only if you get to this objective, then finally the money moves. You offer things as rewards, as gratitudes. All this works, and it was like a very interesting model for us to observe and to discuss with people. But the main question, and that connects to what we think should be transversal in every kind of crowdfunded project that has or wants to have a social impact, is to what extent collectively funding something has to mean also that you're sharing something collectively at the end of the day, that this is publicly available, that people can learn from that, can replicate that, and so on. So, the main thing that we did was to develop a platform that is, gathering projects every time more. We have been experiencing also this kind of incremental growth, like many other platforms, because crowdfunding is every time more explored from different types of projects, not anymore just audiovisuals or music. It's growing in many sectors. And as a platform, we try to introduce several mechanisms and also several philosophies that, for us, and still today, seem very coherent with the model. Just 3 examples, and they are covering some of the aspects that we consider, good experiences of civic crowdfunding. For example, La Casa Invisible in Malaga, in the south of Spain, they were facing this problem with their infrastructure as a civic center, which is one of the epicenters of cultural activity in the city. They had a problem with the city council because they needed to improve some part of the security infrastructure they had. And that was like a need, an urgency to get some resources in order to do some work there. There was also demonstration because some kind of political reaction and forbidding people to enter the building because of this reason, while they knew that it was not that unsafe, so to say. But moments of emergency, moments of intensity where you're validating your values as an initiative, as a place, as a local hub in a way. A second one that happened when we were very young, so they really surprised us, and it was like a still is, I think, one of the best examples of a lawsuit which has been and still need monetary resources and the help, from lawyers and experts, and in this case, in order to try to do something with some irregularities in banks in Spain, with specifically one bank and one representative from that bank, doing things in a very critical moment in the economy, as you know, with an institution that was receiving public money, okay? And this, as an individual and as a professional, as an even political representative at the time, upset lots of people. And, this kind of collective action needed resources in order to, take a legal and a proactive attitude towards that. And it's an open case, still producing leaks, producing a lot of, consequences in media. A third example, and this is moving more to the kind of technology, and maybe some of you are aware of this project that has grown, especially in the last year, more or less balancing the utility of open source hardware and open hardware, sensors that you can have in your house in order to measure pollution, not only noise pollution or air pollution, but also humidity. You have, with this kind of project, the possibility of having a little gadget in your house where you're having an alternative measure of maybe, having an alternative measure to what's the public or the official measure of pollution in your city. So they have like this new idea and a prototype, and they wanted to expand the community and also create an interface for that, an online network in order to show those differences in pollution in the cities. Okay, so this is an example of a civic project that, relies very much on technology and new possibilities with open source. For the three of them, what I want you to pay attention at is, rather than this diagram on the left that is trying to represent this kind of usual rewards on crowdfunding, okay, for 5, 10, 100 euros, no? I'm saying thank you, sending you something, or you want to be part of the credits, whatever. There's a lot of examples of that. I want you to pay attention more at the right. No? Where are the collective incentives for a project that is asking for support from society? Where is the access to archives and to knowledge which is digitalized and accessible to all? Where is that kind of detail, paying attention to the knowledge you can share with people? So, for example, in educational context, people could also reuse that in a way. And even to create a social capital and a community of people doing, from a small business to building something with your design. Those were the questions and are still the type of examples we try to gather through Goteo. And for this, you need to be very, very specific. You need to have a structure or a systematic approach to, okay, what do we talk about when we talk about openness? Sometimes we address those questions with projects we have never heard about, copyleft licenses or Creative Commons or open source licenses. And this is a solid structure for you to share something where you can say if you want others to have a derivative work of it, or even if they want to create some kind of non-commercial or commercial derivative of your work. All this, taking a little bit seriously the license and the framework what you can use for your design, for your content, but also in the shape of knowledge. Let me go back to the examples we saw at the beginning. The Casa Encendida are sharing about how to create an alternative center like they created, so you can try to replicate their model. Or crowdfunding por rato is this one against this banker. It's trying to also create a complete set of openness about how they're working and doing this kind of lawsuit. Okay, so other initiatives or other movements can also learn from that. And okay, the Smart Citizen example is again taking these licenses of open source and open hardware very seriously, so others can replicate the network in their cities. So this is the kind of transversal thing. Other differences to crowdfunding models that we thought could be, strengthen the idea of collaboration. Rethinking the idea of contribution with what I was saying. People through Goteo can help also with infrastructure. We're seeing lots of people, okay, you can use my van, my servers, you can come to work here for a while. So you have to be specific when you ask about that, and it's part of our assessment. But also when we talk about knowledge tasks, people like or know how to subtitle, debug, help you with some kind of development, and this is the thing that it's been channeled through the projects in Goteo as well. So in parallel to crowdfunding, creating a community or a stronger attachment from people working close with you. Another difference, and it's technically not complex, is to have some level of transparency. So you just click in somewhere near the campaign, you have an estimation, or they are sharing an estimation with you, the project leaders, about where are going to put the money. So you can get to even learn or know from that a little bit. This is from a project again in Spain, from the Fundación Civio, who are creating amazing open data tools and portals in order to learn from our governments and to observe what they're doing, and then bring journalists, bring people that can tell stories based on that, on those data. Like in this case, which are the connections, who's ruling. They replicate in a good example of connections between companies and politicians, for example. This is what was being funded here. What we also try to do as an organization is to apply this to ourselves. So we are, trying to be useful for this kind of open projects with different, interpretation of what to be open means, but always taking very seriously the kind of digital output of what they do. And then mainly we, on the one hand, try to share our knowledge. In the workshop we did yesterday with methodologies and materials that we have created since the very beginning, we try to, in every occasion when we can, gather more people, keep on, explaining projects, asking questions, and telling not only the good things, but also the things which are not working. And this is a part of our knowledge also when we write or try to elaborate or to think a little bit more openly about what we do. We are completely open source. That means also taking seriously the code part of it and allow for others to create forks, to create versions of your own software in order to also improve your own system, because we're getting also nice translations or new modules that can be adapted and then incorporated to the core of the tool. Okay? That requires sometimes a little bit more of work, because being open sometimes means some extra publishing, testing, and communicating, but also creates amazing situations or relationships. Like this is the most recent fork we had in Local Good Yokohama, which is an initiative in Japan that I don't honestly know what they're talking about here in this specific campaign, because it's difficult for me to translate it. But we recognize, and then we get to know them, that they were using our source code. And we started this relationship, okay, it's there for you to reuse it and to improve it. Now we can include Japanese in our own source code. But now we're going there next week, for example. We're sharing our knowledge. This is the kind of sustainability model that we're also trying to apply to ourselves. Because in being open, that's not rival with trying to find strategies where the knowledge, for example, has a value. And that's something you can offer to people that has the same goals as you. So institutions, we're finding through our way, are also interested in this model of sharing and replicating. And the third element is the data itself. This is something that I'm very glad to announce here today, because it's not officially yet there, but it's, for some URL you can find open data and open APIs about what's happening through our platform. We consider this should be also a standard in crowdfunding, not only because platforms could compare and tell and help their users to get to know what can be done with them, with the money, the projects, where are the places where this thing is moving. I mean, all the data visualizations that can be done with that, even for academic purpose, can be interesting. I think that for local governments, for people interested in how the needs and how are the opportunities, and also people helping each other, at the local level, this is a very nice way of addressing it. This should be like a standard for every kind of crowdfunding platform. So you get the data and you know how people are dealing with problems, are using their own money, are supporting each other, and learn from that in a visual and dynamic way. Again, a little bit of more work, but we think that what you can get from it, it's by a great difference, a good thing to happen. Secondly, something that we had very clear at the beginning is that growing is very complex and even risky sometimes, and we believe a lot in distributed models of growing. So that's why you can see here the home page of Goteo Euskadi, which is run by the different foundation than our foundation. It's a cooperative in the Basque Country, which are having their own Goteo node, and they are having this kind of direct contact with people at the local level. They have, they can open their doors, they can talk to them directly, and they will do that much better than us, not only for linguistic issues, but also for a kind of, common culture, common interest, and knowing the real problems right, in their area. So we're having this kind of nodes growing, and it's, again, more complexity, but also more benefits in having now one in the south of Spain as well, in Sevilla. In Barcelona, a very recent one. We're probably having one in France very soon. And again, this is a constellation of organizations who share the same motivation as we do, and see the opportunities of using their tools, these tools by themselves, with, again, a kind of relationship we consider a win-win. As I said at the beginning, we are a non-profit foundation. That's also an strategical decision we took, because we didn't find a legal and tax framework in other previous models of crowdfunding that could deal with this kind of dark area about, okay, so what about the taxes here, or where does this money technically go, and what do you have to reflect in your tax every year at the end of the day, and what's the VAT or the equivalent, the IVA in Spain. So one thing that we were assessed, and maybe it's not still 100% perfect, but we're just dealing with donations. We receive them, and then we transfer those donations and economic help to institutions, to communities, to people signing a contract with us with specific requirements. And this has simplified our life, and it's also given some kind of extra things like tax deductible schemes to donors in this case. Another difference, a couple more, that are the things that we identified and we're trying to apply, especially these ones are most recently in the last 2 years. What about finding hybrid models for crowdfunding, where it's not anymore, or it's not only, which is the core thing, but it's people's money. What about the institution's money, the public or private money that can be matching those funds, multiplying this for two? So we call this temporarily cloud funding, with the metaphor of the cloud, but it's match funding. In fact, it's having this kind of local government, university, innovation agency say, rather than making again the same type of call for projects and having a jury and then bring the money based on some merits, let's have a feeder capital, let's have something there that will only multiplying people's money. So we are following people's interest and somehow, making more real that there's a shared interest in a project. There's also, of course, the other side. If the project doesn't reach enough interest from people, money won't go there. It will remain there. It will have a smarter way of being, euro by euro, or, pound by pound, going to people where people find interest. So this is an example of something that in the North of Spain was successful with Innovasc, an innovation agency that say, let's find out what's innovative out there in bottom-up initiatives or new entrepreneurs in the field of health. So new applications for health, new ways of use technology in order to have a healthier life. Let's make a common call. Let's receive, good ideas, and let's select some of them, and let's put 12,000 euros that will only multiply if there's people's money, if there's interest. That's also very useful for campaigns at the beginning, which is a critical moment. That's what you really need to show, this kind of interest, and then some newcomers will see this, interest there. Money is moving. The crowdfunding is full of this kind of, common sense, but at the same time, kind of behavioral or social phenomena or tricks. This is an example. For example, some small association in Spain thinking, okay, we will need the same as we need, to go some places to do some fitness and take care about our bodies. What about having the same for your emotions? Like, this kind of exercises, a place where you go and you exercise your emotions. This was the kind of project that came out of this. And they were, benefited for this kind of, for every 20 euros, there was this institution, as you can see here, multiplying euro by euro. You can observe that. It's open. It's something to learn from as well. And as I was saying, this is something that we've been doing for 3 years, nearly 500 projects, more than 2 million, right now nearly 2.5 million of euros moving through the system for what we consider a standard, or that could be a standard or something to replicate for whoever is interested in this potential of crowdfunding for letting people to help each other, but also to share things, which, again, I'm coming back to the main principle here, which is to make sure by having, a clear conversation about reuse, about publishing online, about making an effort to be transparent and explain your knowledge, your value, So crowdfunding, it's always connected this way and following this kind of structures to the best possible social impact. So this is mainly what we have been seeing, well, as I was saying, recognized. And we take it very seriously as a barometer. And sometimes I even like to say this is maybe a kind of Trojan horse that sometimes, you think it's just crowdfunding, but then you, as a project leader or as an institution, as someone even giving support without realizing those differences, you're helping to create common goods. No? You're helping the commons in a way that we think has a great potential, and it's still quite an explored area. Take it this way in crowdfunding in general. So I think it says 0, so I just finish in time. Thank you very much.